Title: Aliens experimented on her without mercy. The human risked everything to save her. The moon hung heavy in the night sky, casting a pale glow over the alien planet. The cold, desolate landscape stretched out endlessly, punctuated by the sharp silhouette of the metallic research facility. Inside, the air was sterile, cold, and suffocating. In a small, darkened room, an alien creature lay on a table, her body battered and bruised from the cruel experiments she had been subjected to. Her name was Lyra, a peaceful alien from a distant galaxy who had been captured and studied by ruthless beings who saw her as nothing more than a specimen. For weeks, Lyra had endured relentless testing, probes, and invasive procedures that left her body scarred and her spirit shattered. Her once bright eyes were now hollow, filled with a mixture of pain and fear. She had long lost hope of escape. She had resigned herself to the idea that no one would come to save her. But then he came. James Walker was an ordinary man. At least that's how he saw himself. A soldier by trade. He had been stationed on the outskirts of a distant colony, guarding the borders and keeping watch for any signs of trouble. But when he received the distress signal, everything changed. A lone distress call had come through the radio, a transmission filled with static and a single word: help. The message had been enough to send James on a mission that no one else dared to take on. He wasn't sure who sent the message, but he knew that someone out there was in trouble. His instincts told him that it was no ordinary distress signal. It was a cry for help from someone in need of rescue, someone who couldn't save themselves. Ignoring the warning from his superiors, James boarded a small shuttle and set off toward the coordinates of the transmission. The alien planet where Lyra was being held was far from friendly, but that didn't matter. He was determined to save whoever it was that had reached out. As James' shuttle touched down on the alien planet, he could feel the weight of his decision settling in. He was on a dangerous mission, and the chances of survival were slim. The aliens on this planet were known for their ruthlessness and their experiments on other species, and the thought of what they might be doing to the person who had sent the signal made his stomach churn. He snuck into the facility under the cover of darkness, using his military training to avoid detection. The inside of the complex was eerily quiet, and the only sound was the hum of the machinery that ran the experiments. As he moved through the sterile halls, he came to a locked door, its heavy metallic surface standing in stark contrast to the vulnerability of what lay inside. He took a deep breath and hacked into the control panel, bypassing the security systems. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and James stepped into the room, his eyes immediately locking onto the figure lying on the table. It was her. Lyra's form was fragile, her body covered in bruises and cuts. She looked barely alive, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The sight of her made James' heart ache. He had seen his fair share of suffering, but nothing compared to the brutality that was evident in this room. His mind raced as he quickly moved to her side, his hands trembling as he gently touched her arm. "Hey," James whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "I'm here. I'm going to get you out of here." Her eyes flickered open at the sound of his voice, and for the first time in weeks, a spark of hope appeared in her gaze. She didn't know who this human was or where he had come from, but the tenderness in his voice gave her a reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone cared. The aliens were not far behind. James knew his time was limited. He could hear the distant sound of footsteps approaching, the heavy thud of their boots echoing down the hallway. He had to act quickly. Lyra's body was too weak to stand on her own, but with James' help, she managed to sit up, her limbs shaky and frail. "You need to move," he urged, his voice urgent. He scooped her into his arms, cradling her against his chest as he turned to face the door. "Stay with me, Lyra. We're getting out of here." With every step he took, James could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. The facility was large, and escaping wouldn't be easy. He had no backup, no reinforcements, and only his wits to rely on. The aliens would soon realize that the human had breached their facility, and they would stop at nothing to recapture Lyra and punish her for her escape. As he moved swiftly through the halls, James felt a burning determination rising in him. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for something more. The thought of leaving Lyra behind, of letting her suffer at the hands of these merciless creatures, was something he couldn't bear. He had risked everything to find her, and he wasn't going to stop now. They reached the shuttle just as the first alien soldiers appeared in the doorway behind them. James didn't hesitate. He pressed a button, and the ship's hatch opened, allowing them both to board. With Lyra safely inside, he quickly powered up the engines and launched the shuttle into the air, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts. As they soared into the sky, the facility growing smaller and smaller below them, James couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. They had escaped. Lyra, still weak but slowly regaining her strength, looked up at him with gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't think anyone would come." James smiled softly, his eyes meeting hers. "I couldn't leave you behind. You're safe now. And I'm not going to let anything happen to you." And as they made their way toward the stars, away from the hell they had just escaped, both James and Lyra knew that their journey was only just beginning. The end.